The day Jamie married Ryan, the world felt right. The sun bathed the garden venue in golden hues, a soft breeze carrying laughter and the scent of fresh roses. As they exchanged vows, Jamie held onto Ryan's hands, believing in the warmth behind his touch, in the whispered promises of forever. It wasn't just love, it was certainty. For years, their marriage painted a picture of effortless happiness. Mornings started with coffee waiting on the bedside table, a note scribbled with a simple, "Love you, always." Evenings were spent tangled on the couch, murmuring about work, dreams, and the future. Their love felt unshakable, like a home with deep, unyielding foundations. But cracks form quietly, almost imperceptibly. At first, Jamie ignored the subtle shifts. The way Ryan's phone was suddenly face down at dinner. The unread messages that stayed unanswered. The growing distance disguised as work stress, late meetings, and missed date nights. "You're overthinking," Ryan would say, pressing a quick kiss to Jamie's forehead before slipping out the door. Jamie wanted to believe that. It was easier than acknowledging the gnawing unease. Then came the nights Ryan smelled of unfamiliar perfume. The once effortless affection turned into rehearsed gestures. Their conversations felt like reading a script, the lines the same, but the delivery void of meaning. Jamie's best friend, Ava, had noticed first. "He's distracted," she said over lunch one afternoon, her voice cautious. "Like, not just with work. Are you sure everything's okay?" Jamie had laughed it off. "He's just busy." But the doubt lingered. One evening, as Jamie cleared the dinner plates, Ryan's phone vibrated on the counter. Without thinking, Jamie glanced at the screen. A message preview flashed. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again." Jamie's hands froze. The room tilted, breath caught somewhere between a gasp and silence. The sender's name was just an initial. Jamie's pulse hammered. A mistake. A misunderstanding. It had to be. Ryan walked in, saw the phone in Jamie's hand, and for the briefest moment, his face registered something. Guilt, fear, or maybe just irritation at being caught. He recovered quickly. "That's just a friend," he said smoothly, slipping the phone away. "Don't start getting paranoid." Jamie forced a nod, swallowing the lump in their throat. That night, lying in bed beside Ryan's sleeping form, Jamie stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of a truth they weren't ready to face. The marriage they had cherished, the love they had built, it was already slipping through their fingers. The perfect illusion was cracking, and Jamie was about to find out just how deep the betrayal ran. Jamie had spent weeks convincing themselves that doubt was more dangerous than the truth. That questioning Ryan, demanding answers, might unravel everything. So, they buried the message, ignored the shifts in Ryan's behavior, and pretended their marriage was still intact. Until the night reality shattered beyond repair. A Friday evening, Jamie had planned a quiet dinner at home, an attempt to rekindle what was slipping away. But as the hours passed and Ryan's texts remained vague, work ran late. "Don't wait up." Jamie felt something snap. On impulse, they grabbed their keys and drove downtown, their mind racing with possibilities. Maybe Ryan was just stressed. Maybe there was an explanation. But deep down, they already knew. The city buzzed with life as Jamie pulled up near Ryan's office. They barely had time to process what they were looking at. Across the street, beneath the glow of a street lamp, stood Ryan, smiling, his arms draped around a woman. She laughed, tilting her face toward his as he leaned in and kissed her. Jamie's breath caught in their throat. It wasn't the kiss itself that destroyed them. It was the ease of it, the casual way Ryan held her, as if Jamie never existed, as if their life together was nothing more than an afterthought. For a moment, time splintered. The past and present blurred, the wedding vows, the whispered forever, the soft I love yous, all unraveling with one stolen kiss. Ryan pulled away, murmuring something to the woman that made her smile. He turned slightly, and that's when he saw Jamie. Their eyes locked. Ryan didn't look shocked or guilty. Instead, he smirked. Just a flicker of amusement before quickly masking it with indifference. Jamie felt something inside them go cold. They had expected heartbreak, tears, maybe even rage. But instead, clarity settled in. This wasn't a moment to beg or scream. Ryan had made his choice long before this night. And Jamie? They were done being a spectator in their own betrayal. Steeling themselves, Jamie stepped forward. The sound of their heels against the pavement was deliberate, unhurried. Ryan stiffened, but Jamie didn't falter. When they reached him, Jamie didn't slap him or demand an explanation. They simply pulled an envelope from their bag, held it out, and smiled. Ryan frowned. "What's this?" "Divorce papers," Jamie said, voice calm, unwavering. "You expected me to cry, didn't you?" Ryan opened his mouth, but Jamie didn't wait for an answer. Without another word, they turned and walked away, their steps light, their chest unburdened. Ryan had expected to break them. Instead, Jamie had set themselves free. The moment Jamie walked away, something shifted inside them. It wasn't just the act of leaving Ryan behind. It was the realization that they had been trapped in an illusion for far too long. Love, trust, commitment. None of it had been real to Ryan. But to Jamie, it had been everything. That night, Jamie didn't cry. They didn't crumble or question what went wrong. Instead, they sat at their desk, staring at the neatly signed divorce papers, and felt an unfamiliar emotion rising: freedom. Ryan had expected devastation. He had counted on their pain, believing they would beg, plead, maybe even fight for him. But Jamie had no intention of giving him that satisfaction. If Ryan thought he had won, he was about to learn otherwise. Jamie moved with precision in the days that followed. First, they secured their finances, transferring their share of joint accounts into their personal one. The apartment? It was in Jamie's name. The car? Jamie's too. Every investment Ryan had benefited from over the years had been Jamie's doing, and now Jamie was taking it all back. Ryan didn't realize it at first. He still carried himself with that smug arrogance, assuming Jamie would come running back. But when he walked into the apartment days later to find half his belongings packed in boxes and the locks changed, his confidence wavered. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, shoving the papers Jamie had left on the counter. Jamie met his glare with nothing but indifference. "It's called moving on, Ryan. You should try it." His jaw clenched. "You're seriously kicking me out?" Jamie tilted their head. "Did you really think you could humiliate me and still have a place in my life?" Ryan scoffed, but there was uncertainty in his eyes now. "You're being petty." Jamie smiled. "No, Ryan. I'm being smart." And then, just for good measure, they slid a small folder across the counter. Contained proof, bank statements, receipts, investments, all in Jamie's name. Ryan had benefited from their generosity for years, and now he was walking away with nothing. His face paled as he flipped through the documents. "You planned this." Jamie leaned forward, their voice soft but firm. "No, Ryan. You planned this the moment you decided I wasn't enough." Ryan had no comeback. He had expected an easy exit, a drama-filled breakup where he remained the one in control. But Jamie had rewritten the script. As he grabbed his things and left for the final time, Jamie stood by the window, watching him disappear into the night. There was no sadness, no regret, just the quiet satisfaction of knowing they had taken their power back. Ryan had lost them long before that night. He just didn't realize it until now. The silence in the apartment was different now. It wasn't heavy or suffocating. It was peaceful. For the first time in years, Jamie wasn't waiting for a message that wouldn't come or an apology that would never be sincere. The weight of Ryan's betrayal had lifted, replaced by something unfamiliar but welcome: clarity. At first, there were moments of doubt. Love didn't vanish overnight, and neither did the memories. Sometimes, Jamie would catch themselves reaching for their phone, instinctively wanting to share something with Ryan. But then they would remember the smirk, the kiss, the casual cruelty of it all. And each time, the ache faded a little more. Healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about rebuilding. Jamie poured their energy into themselves. They reconnected with old friends, took weekend trips to places they had always wanted to see, and rediscovered passions that had been buried beneath the weight of their relationship. They filled their days with new experiences, and slowly, their world expanded beyond the confines of a love that had never truly been theirs. One afternoon, while sipping coffee at their favorite cafe, Ava slid a newspaper across the table. Ryan's new relationship had already fallen apart. The woman he had kissed that night, gone. Their perfect little affair had crumbled under the weight of reality. Jamie only smiled. It wasn't satisfaction from seeing him fail, it was relief. They weren't trapped in that cycle anymore. They had broken free before they became just another casualty of Ryan's selfishness. One evening, standing by their apartment window, Jamie reflected on how much had changed. Not just on the outside, but within. They weren't the same person who had once believed love meant enduring pain. They had learned that love, real love, should never make you question your worth. And then, almost poetically, Ryan reached out. A simple text. "Hey, I miss you." Jamie stared at the screen, a version of themselves from the past whispering that this was the moment to consider forgiveness. But the present Jamie, the one who had walked away with dignity, who had rebuilt themselves from the ground up, only felt calm. They didn't reply. Instead, they turned off their phone, walked outside, and stepped into a world that, for the first time in a long time, belonged entirely to them. Ryan had once expected to see them broken. Instead, Jamie was thriving.